nourish or when you have a nourished nutrition, how does it increase your chances of having a longer life? Bida, please go to the next slide. Oh, this is getting harder. Okay, so in nutrition, we understand that nutrition is a very powerful thing in our life because initially we live by nutrition. If you take, for instance, I'm very sure we have doctors here, we have different professions here, and we understand that every day we have to eat, every day we have to work, every day we have to move. And for us to do all those things, we need nutrition, we need food. Okay, my name is Esther, and I am a nutrition student at Kenya Methodist University, and I'm so excited to share with you today. Bida, please go to the next slide. I'm sorry, this has to be really complicated. Okay, so I came up with a few objectives on what we'd like to have by the end of this session, and like I said earlier on, you could write your expectations, what you'd like to know, or by the end of the session, what you'd like to have known. And these are the few that I think by the end of the session would have known. Would have known the basic understanding of what nutrition and fitness is. And also by the end, we would have known the importance of this in our daily life. Like I said, every day we live by nutrition, and every day we live by the work that we do that needs nutrition. And then the third objectives that would have accomplished by the end of this is the health implications. Remember, everything has the positive and the negative. Okay, so let's say we've not taken this into account. What is going to be the implication? Or if I don't do this, what is going to happen? Or if I do this, how is this going to affect me? So, and the last one is choosing a better and healthy life habits. At least by the end of this session, we should have known that this is what I want, or this is the program that I want, because I'm sure all of us here have different perspectives. Maybe you want to lose weight, maybe you want to gain weight, maybe you want to know how you can handle between your food, between your work, between your health, all those things. By the end of this session, we should have known. Next one, Bida. All right. So now I'm going to throw a question to you. Like I said, you might have heard about nutrition from wherever, but I want to know what understanding of nutrition. I'm not sure we have time, or if, but I would like us to kindly use the chat box as actively as possible. You could write your opinion on what you think is nutrition. What do you think? Just your thought. It doesn't have to be correct. There's no answer that is wrong or correct. Just what you think. I'll be checking the chat box. Yes. Dara is saying I'm off. I don't know if that's correct. Someone please confirm you can hear me. Okay. Oh, that was an old message. Okay. Okay. Someone is saying nutrition is a meal we have at home. Please keep them coming. Nutrition is a process in which food is eaten, digested, and utilized for a normal body function. Yes, please keep them coming. Nutrition is a biochemical and physiological process by which an organism uses food to support its life. All right. Okay, from the answers I'm getting, it seems like most of us are in the same chapter. We understand what basic nutrition might be. And this is a brief introduction of what it is. Nutrition is the science of providing the body with the essential nutrients it needs to function. Okay, I would read out the last one. Nutrition is the intake of essential elements. That's from Moses. Thank you, Moses. So I was saying nutrition is the science of providing the body with essential nutrients it needs to function properly. Okay, what comes to your mind when you speak about essential nutrients? Of course, essential nutrients are the things that we take in our body, for example, the foods that we eat every day, or the kind of drinks we take every day. They make up to the essential things that are needed for us to function. And we also know that very well that the cells in our body require energy to, and you all get from food. And this food, for you to have it, has to be nutritious. And the elements of this is, when you look at nutrition, you have to look at the intake, the digestion, the absorption, and the secretion. Yes, you might be taking very good food and you might be taking adequate food that is required for your body. But is that food digested? That's a question you should have. All right, let's say you digest this food and yes, you don't have any complications, but are you able to absorb that food so that it can actually go into your bloodstream so that it can be used by your body? That's another question. Or the last one, do you think the food you're eating is able to be secreted? Because at the end of the day, you have to ensure that whatever you eat has a waste product, obviously. Let's say you have no problem with your intake, your digestion, your absorption, but you cannot secrete. What happens? You'll have problems with nutrition. I'm seeing a message. Someone is saying they can't hear me. I'm really not sure if this is an older message or. All right, let me assume you can all hear me. Okay, Bida, please to the next one. So we have to have it in mind that nutrition is not just about eating. It's not just about what you take into your body. It's about, if I can eat this food, is it adequate? Okay, if I can take this food, is it going to be absorbed? Is it going to be secreted? These are all things you should have in your mind. For you to have a complete nutrition, you have to have all those four aspects. All right. This takes us to the next slide, which talks about myths and misconceptions about nutrition. I'm sure this is going to be a bit funny because, like I said, we might have had so many stories from people or from the internet. And we might have also had so many myths about this is right, this is wrong. You go to a health facility, somebody tells you something else. When you go to the village, your grandmother tells you something else. When you go to the internet tells you something else. So it's a very complicated topic that has to be well revised, has to be well studied, because we might actually think we know. We might think we know the food that we eat is healthy or the kind of drinks we take are healthy. But if we know the biochemical way it works in our body, that's when we can actually know, oh, this is this or this is that. Okay, the first one is eating healthy is too expensive. I don't know what you think about this myth, or I don't know if you think this is true or not, because eating healthy is associated with people who are expensive, or so they say. So most times when you tell somebody to eat healthy or you tell somebody to eat nutritious food, first thing that comes to their mind is, oh, it's very expensive. But is it true? I don't think that is true, because you can even have the most healthy foods that are actually the best. It's just the choice which food I'm buying. If you have, or you know the kind of food that you're buying, or you know that this is the value of this food, that's when you know that actually healthy foods are not expensive. Okay, the second one is you shouldn't eat anything beyond 7 p.m. I am not sure what you've been told, or I am not sure what the internet says, but from what I know is eating at 7 p.m. or beyond is not bad. Okay. But what is bad is when you eat and then, or you overeat and that food does not get digested. Okay. You might have other conditions. that when you eat, the food does not get digested. So there you get problems with your stomach, you get uncomfortable. But there is nothing wrong with having a craving, maybe at 7 or at 8. Maybe you want to eat a fruit or you want to take juice or anything. So this is a myth that is not correct, and we shouldn't take it in a way that will avoid us from actually something that our body requires. Okay, the third one, it says the best way to decrease sodium intake is to stop using the salt shaker. I've been a victim of this because every time somebody says, for you not to have a lot of sodium in your body, you're not supposed to take salt from the table, or you're not supposed to take from wherever. Okay, the deal is this: salt, like we all know, is processed. Okay, so the reason why you are advised not to take salt from the table is because of the processed content in it. Because we say in nutrition, we have to avoid by all means foods that are processed. Why? Because it has chemicals, it has stuff that can affect us. And that's why you are encouraged. But there's no way you can tell me that if I decrease the intake of if I don't put salt from the table or just added salt, it's going to prevent my sodium intake. Okay. Okay. Another one says eating late at night causes weight gain. We have low fat or fat free products are healthier choices. These are all stereotypes. There is nothing that says they are true or they are wrong. Okay. So let me tell you what I know. When you go to a supermarket and want to buy, let's say, milk, you'll always find that there are so many choices. There's a variety. You find that here somebody has written low fat, the other one has written fat free. But because let's say you have a condition and you do not want to say, let's say, gain weight, you decide, I'm going for the low fat. Why? Because of it has low fat. But is that true? No, because not all those low fats or fat free products are actually healthier. Most of them are for business purposes, and most of them is because the fact that they are processed means, of course, they have content in them that have fat. And the reason why fat is put there is because you want to have satiety in what you're eating. Okay? All right. The next one is all organic foods are healthy. This is another myth, because you can't tell me that whatever you buy that is organic is healthy. If you know the choice of what you want, you cannot tell me that everything in the market is healthy. Of course, fertilizers are used. Some of them put chemicals so that they can stay longer. And that alone makes it unhealthy. So where do you buy your food from? Where do you buy your products from is very important. The third last says protein consumption is harmless. Okay, protein is important in our body. We need protein to build our muscles. We need protein, for energy. But is it true that protein consumption is harmless? Because somebody might tell you, if you want to gain weight, you have to eat a lot of protein, 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 protein. But what does the protein do to the liver? Remember, the work is the body is supposed to process all this, and it's supposed to be digested and secreted. But now if you overload your body, you might not be able to digest all of them. And so moderation is very, very, very important. Okay. Everyone should eat gluten. Okay. Just for the highlight, gluten is a protein that is found in wheat. And we know that some people have conditions that might not allow them to take what? Gluten. But you should know that gluten is not the reason why you lose or gain weight. Okay? Gluten is a very, very nutritious element you can actually, and mostly fat. Okay? If you should not eat, you should gluten, you should not do this, you have to be very. And then if you lose, this is not true to some extent. Why? Because you need carbs in your body to get energy. Let's say you decide, okay, maybe I want to lose weight and I don't want to eat a lot of carbs. You're restricting your body from getting energy. So you decide, I'm going to cut down on the carbohydrates I take every day because I want to lose weight. You're forgetting that your body needs that energy to fuel your brain, to fuel your cells so that your body can function very well. So imagine you decide to cut and cut and cut, and just because you want to lose weight, I'm going to cut all these things. At the end of the day, you get deficiencies because you don't have a specific kind of energy that you require in your body. Bida, please, the next slide. And I'm hoping all of you can hear me. Not really want to be speaking and nobody is hearing. Okay. All right. There's this saying. People mostly say, you are what you eat. I don't know what you think about this statement. And I'm hoping that you can send your thoughts in the chat box so that we can all be on the same page. You are what you are what you eat. What do you think about this statement? I'll give 1 minute for that. What do you think you are what you eat? I don't know if it's me who is not seeing the messages or it's you guys who are not. Okay, somebody's saying, yes, you are what you eat. I would like one other one. Thank you, Gwen. Another one is saying, okay, that one is gone. It means your body is made up of the foods that you consume, yes. And Richard is saying this means your body or your health depends on your diet. And this is absolutely correct. One thing you should know is whatever you eat is going to define who you are. I know there are medical doctors here, they might think otherwise. And I know there are different professions here, they might think otherwise. But this is what I'm telling you. Because when you work on your nutrition, you're working on so many areas of your health that you will never regret in your life. Vida, please take us to the next one. Okay. Okay. Now we'll go back to that one, to that question of what you think nutrition, what you eat is. After we come to the history of nutrition, this is just something very brief. Okay, so we want to know, how did this nutrition come about? Because of course we might be asking ourselves. So we have to know that nutrition existed throughout centuries and throughout the evolution of mankind's history. It means it's not just something that started yesterday or the other day or 2011 when we got independence. It started way long time ago. Okay. And here we are taking a story of the Stone Age period. I know most of us went to school and we know about the Stone Age period. They existed roughly 2.5 million years ago. Okay. But what did these guys do? These guys were mostly hunters and gatherers. And what were they gathering? They were gathering fruits, vegetables. They were killing animals so that they can get food. And if you look at the foods and the animals they hunted for, they were very nutritious because you get nutrients from animals, from plants. And that's why we say nutrition is not just something. But then happened in 1943 to 17. Is the one that made a contribution, a very big milestone in the nutrition department. He actually brought the idea of modified how nutrition is now working in our body. When you eat, what happens? How does it go about? Or how does the absorption take place? And that's why he's referred to as the father of nutrition. But nutrition is not something new, it's something that started way back. Okay. And up to today, we have to know that nutrition is still evolving because of the new technologies and the new systems that we have. We find that today we have supplements. If you look at maybe 3 generations ago, there might not have been supplements. But now, because of technology and innovations, we can now get any type of supplement you want, any type of vitamin you want that your body lacks, and you can be able to compensate for what you not have in your body. So it's a long time thing, and it says us so that we can keep updated on what's happening. Be the next one. Okay, so we've said nutrition started way back, and we want to now know what are these types of nutrition. And we already know that nutrition are these essential nutrients that we are supposed to take to our body, that are supposed to be used in our body to get energy, to have active mind, to have this activity factor in our body. So what are these type of nutrients? We mainly have two types of nutrients. We have the macronutrients and we have the micronutrients. So let's talk about the macronutrients. What are they? Just from the word macro is something that is big, okay? Something that is large, or whichever way you put it, but it's something that is big. So macronutrients are required in our body in large amounts. Okay, these are nutrients that our body needs every day in larger amounts compared to the other nutrients. And there are mainly 3 types. Okay, so we have the carbohydrates, we have the proteins, and we have the fats. I'm sure you've heard about this so many times: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. But what are these carbohydrates? What are these proteins? What are these fats? I'm sure you must be curious and you want to know what it is. Bida, please take us to the next. Okay, so we said there are 3 types of what? Of nutrients. I mean, 2 types of nutrients, the macro and the micro. And then under the micro, we have the protein, the carbohydrates, and the fats. Now let's talk about carbohydrates. Let's start from what is actually the work of carbohydrates. Carbohydrate is the nutrient that gives us energy. When we eat carbohydrates or foods that are rich in carbohydrates, we get energy that we need to function every day. And carbohydrates are divided into 2. We have the simple and the complex carbohydrates. Okay, I want to talk something briefly on the simple carbohydrates and the and the complex carbohydrates. Okay. Okay. Simple carbohydrates are basically sugars. Okay. Sugars, for example, the glucose, the fructose, the maltose, the lactose. And I would like to explain this further so that we can understand. So glucose is primarily the source of energy that we need in our body. Okay. In plants, it is starch, and starch is converted and used by our body as energy, as glucose, basically. Okay. So where can you get these simple carbohydrates? You can get them from fruits, you can get them from honey, you can get them from vegetables, etc. And then we have fructose. Fructose, just like the name suggests, it's from natural sugars. So you can find natural sugars in fruits, you can find them in roots, you can find them in vegetables, you can find them. Then one is sucrose. So now sucrose is a combination of fructose and glucose. Remember we said fructose was this one that you get from fruits, while glucose is the one that provides energy. So if you combine these two, you get table sugar. Okay? All right. What about maltose? Maltose is the one that you get from beverages. There are some drinks, when you take them, you get an element of maltose in it. And then the last one is lactose. I'm sure you've heard people talk about lactose intolerant, lactose this, lactose that. Lactose is that sugar that you get from milk and dairy products. And there are people who are intolerant to that. So if you have that intolerance, you are advised to take other types of sugars. So these are simple sugars. And these are the sugars that are very, 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 I wouldn't want to say bad, but when you take them in very high quantity, it's very harmful to your body. So you have to always be moderate in whatever you take. And then the second type of sugar is now the complex carbohydrates. Okay. Remember, I said we had simple and complex. So in complex, you find that in starch, in fiber. Okay. And in starch, you find that this is the glucose that your body needs to give you the energy required. And then the fiber is a complex carbohydrate that the body does not digest. And this one, you can mostly get it from grains, legumes, potatoes, vegetables, and all this stuff. So you have to understand that carbohydrates are good, but whichever amount you take is what determines. So you have to know as a human being, which amount am I supposed to take? Okay, there are these two types of carbohydrates. There's the simple and the complex. Which one is important? They are all important, but which one is more important? Okay, I'll go for complex. Why? Because they have fiber. And fiber is important in our body because it helps us to easy our digestion and helps to keep the food that we eat in our stomach for a longer time. So you would obviously want to go for that. So if you decide to go for the sweet sugars, which is where you find a tablespoon, you have to go moderately so that you don't get long time effects of what? Of sugars. Okay, now let's talk about proteins. I hope you've gotten one or two things from carbohydrates. Let's talk about proteins. In proteins, we have two types of proteins as well. We have the animal protein and we have the plant protein. So the protein that you get from animal, anything that is animal based, for example, milk, meat, whichever product you get from animal, eggs, fish, these are all animal proteins. And they are considered to be the most the full proteins because they have all the essential elements that your body requires. For example, if you eat fish has and I'm really happy for those guys who live along the lake and they have access to fish. Fish has an element called omega-3 fatty acid, which is very, very important. It's very essential for the growth in our body and the development of our brain and stuff like that. Okay. And then when you talk about the plant protein, you find that these are foods or these are proteins that you can get only in plants. For example, which proteins do you get from plants? You can get from legumes, you can get from nuts, you can get from seeds, vegetables like spinach, broccoli, full. You get all these as plant proteins. While they are not as animal protein because, like we said, animal protein contains all the essentials. It's considered the quality protein. So somebody might tell you to consume animal protein instead of plant protein. It's not because plant protein is bad, but it's because animal protein contains almost actually all the essential elements, while plant proteins might not have all the essential elements. So when you're choosing what to eat, you have to understand, I'm going to choose this kind of protein because of this and that, or because of this and that. And different types of people eat different type of protein because of different reasons. Maybe they have problems with acidity. Some people, when they eat beans, which you get from animal, which you get from plants, you might have acidity. So what do you opt for? You go for something that is beneficial to you, something that will not affect you or give you discomfort. Okay. And then now let's talk about fat. I know we don't have time. I'm going to brush through very fast. Let's talk about fat. We've also had stereotypes about fats, like we've seen in the group in the first slide that was talking about all fats are bad. That is not true, because right now the circulation that is going around is, oh, fat is this, you should not eat these oils because these oils are bad, or all oils are bad. No, not all oils are bad. We have mainly two types of fats. We have have the saturated and the unsaturated. So when you talk about saturated, they turn into solid, okay? And most times these are considered to be the fats that are not healthy, okay? So if you're consuming them, because I know people are consuming them, considering the economy, considering the prices, considering so many factors, we cannot say that we will only go for the unsaturated, yeah. But if you opt for the saturated, you have to go in moderation. Even if you're using it to cook, make sure that it is not in a lot so that it causes you problems, okay? And you can mainly get this from, you see, earlier on I had people from Western Equatoria, and somebody people from Western Equatoria usually have a lot of this palm oil. I know it's a lot there. So palm oil is one of the saturated oils, okay? It is not very healthy. So if you're eating it, you have to make sure that you moderate it. If you're using it to cook, make sure that it's not a lot. Okay. Now let's talk about this unsaturated. The unsaturated is the one that is liquid in nature. Even if you put it in a fridge, it's still liquid. Okay, it's very healthy, and you mainly find it from um, from plant-based products. For example, sunflower. You can get from corn flour. You can get all these oils from there, and these are very healthy. Sim, you can get them from groundnuts. All these oils are very important. So if you can be able to opt for unsaturated fats, they are really, really important. And under fats, I also want to talk about cholesterol. We've had also a lot of questions about cholesterol. How is it important, or what are the effects? Nutrition is about moderation. There is nothing that is bad, but how do you take it? Okay, after you take it, do you do exercise? Are you active, or are you just sleeping? Okay, so cholesterol is very important in our body. Why? Because, for example, when a baby is born, a baby needs cholesterol for the development of their brain, okay, for the structure. Now, as a mother, let's say you have your breast milk and then you have the colostrum, which is full of cholesterol, and it's important for your baby, but you don't give your baby that. What happens? At the end of the day, this baby grows up and does not have the stamina, okay? Because whatever you feed this baby from a younger age is what determines this baby's health, is what determines this baby's growth. If this baby is growing, how is the nutrition of this baby going to affect the growth of this baby? If you've seen, for instance, most of the children who didn't get proper nutrition from a younger age tend to grow stunted, tend to grow up very inactive because of the foods that they did not get, because of the nutrients that their body did not get. So if you're listening to me, you have a sister or you're a mother, please make sure you breastfeed the child for 6 months. All right. I was saying cholesterol is important, but too much bad. So anything that has cholesterol, for example, eggs has cholesterol. How many eggs do you take in a day? If you've taken those eggs, are you going to do you're just going to see, and that food is there? Yes, and it's deposited in your body. What happens at the end of the day is this cholesterol accumulates in your body, and then it blocks the blood vessels that are supposed to be running smoothly. And then years from now, you find yourself you have cardiovascular diseases. You find yourself you have stroke. You have heart veins, and the blood flow has been interrupted because of the blockage from this. And that is why you are requested to take anything in moderation. Bida, please, next slide as I take my water. Okay, so we said we had two types of nutrients. We said we had the macronutrients and the
Have you finished
so
taking the
now,
water?
pardon? Yeah,
Have you
I'm good.
finished taking the water? I could give you 3 minutes
Yeah.
to have some more.
No, I'm okay. I am okay.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yes. So, we said we had two types of nutrients. We had the micro and the macro. And we've talked about macro, where we had the carbohydrate, proteins, and fats. So now let's talk about the micronutrients. From the name, micro, these are nutrients that are required in smaller quantities in our bodies. They are very important, but they're needed in smaller quantities. And there are two, vitamins and minerals. Okay? So vitamins are also divided into two. We have the water soluble and we have the fat soluble. I'm sure you've heard about vitamin C, vitamin B complex. And if you look at the water soluble, these are the ones that can only be taken. These are the ones that the body makes, okay? But the fat soluble is on food. They're very essential. For example, food that has vitamin D, vitamin E, or vitamin K, you might be lacking them in your body. And if you lack them in your body, you'll have deficiencies. That's why you find that some people have anemia, some people have beriberi. These are all diseases that are because you lack a specific type of nutrient. That's why it's important to know that every vitamin is important because it has different roles in our bodies. So if you decide to take vitamins, you have to know that it is solving a specific thing in your body. You don't have to ignore because, oh, it is small, it is this, or it is that. And you can get vitamins from so many sources: vegetables, foods. So many foods have vitamins. You can get them from fruits. So many fruits have vitamins. So the selection of what you eat should be really, really very important. So vitamin, the C and B complex might not be having a lot of problems because it is stored in your body, okay? But the vitamin A, D, E, and K, you get it from food. So if you don't take foods that have these vitamins, it is going to cause you a problem because you might lack a specific vitamin that will affect your function. Okay, let's talk about minerals. What are minerals, first of all? Minerals are organic compounds that serve functional and structural functions in our body. And minerals are also divided into two, into macro and trace minerals. Okay, we said they help in the functional and structural functions in our body. For example, the calcium, the phosphorus, the sodium, the sulfur, very important. And that's why when you eat food, they put salt. Why? And it is important in your body. So if you have low intake of salt, you will have a condition, you'll have a disease, you'll have a sickness. Let's talk about trace minerals. For example, the zinc, the iron, and the iodine. I'm sure you've seen women when they get pregnant, they're given folic acid. Why? Because it has a function. For example, when you're pregnant and you take that folic acid, it helps the structural development of your baby so that your baby does not have conditions that will affect them. Or let's say you have lack of iron, you'll have anemia because you don't have enough blood in your body. So every mineral is important, and whatever food you're eating, you have to consider which content of what is in what, so that when you eat, you know that I'm eating this and it has this content of nutrient I'm eating. Okay, did that please to the next? And then the last nutrient I would like us to talk about is water. We've talked about the macronutrients, the micronutrients. Now let's talk about water. What is water? This is a very complicated question that so many of us confused. Is water a nutrient, first of all? I would like to see your answers in the comment. What do you think about water? Is water a nutrient? Grace Banja is saying yes. What a nutrient. What is saying is a nutrient? Okay. Yeah. Okay. You agree that water is a nutrient? Okay. The definition of water is that water is a substance, okay? So what is a substance that is composed of chemical elements? For example, hydrogen and oxygen, okay? Remember we had a definition of what a nutrient is. We said a nutrient are essential elements that are found in food. Okay, so this gives a very contradicting analogy of whether water is a nutrient or not. Okay, locally, water is not considered a nutrient. Yes, it is a very important element, but it's not a nutrient. Why? Because it does not have calories. So, calories is what determines whether something is nutritional or not. I don't know if this makes sense to you. Okay. So, water is very important element in our body, but it is not considered a nutrient because it does not have calories. For a better understanding, we still have examples of them. We will get to them down there. Mawuti is saying it is a component of the nutrient. Yes, that is correct. Remember, it does not have a calorie. And we said a nutrient is essential because it has the calories in it. And we will only understand this better if we know what okay is a unit of energy. So, for example, the food that you eat, let's say we've said, let's take, for example, we are taking cassava. Cassava is a carbohydrate, it provides energy. You've eaten cassava and you want to determine the calories of this cassava. So, for you to know a calorie is the unit of energy that you get in that cassava or that particular drink that you've taken. Okay? So, and that can only be determined if we know as a human being, as you yourself, what is the calorie requirement that you need as a person. We understand that women and men, they are different human beings, even their requirements are different when it comes to food. So, okay. Kenya, you're very right. Water has 0 calories, but it's rich in minerals. Yes, like what? Which minerals does it have? It has sodium, it has calcium, it has chloride. Correct. But remember, we said it has 0 calories. So anything that has 0 calories is not a nutrient. But it's an essential thing that we need for our body to function. We need water so that the cells in our body can function. We need water to help in digestion. We need water to help in absorption. So it's a very, very important thing that we need in our body. Okay. So we're talking about calories. So the normal range in nutrition, we use ranges. We cannot say that specifically you're supposed to eat this amount of food or this. We have ranges because human beings are, you see, from the height, from the weight, from the age, from the activity. You can find somebody who stays home most of the time, who's not working. You cannot say that this person is supposed to eat 2,500 kilocalories a day, right? Because that would be a lot. Because this person is not working or not lifting something heavy or is not active. And you can compare it another person who is a builder. this person is a builder and needs more calories, needs more energy, because the one that he's taking in, he's out because of the actor that he does. But the range that a man is supposed to have is between 2,000 to 2,500 kilocalories in a day. So now it is your role as the human being to determine, I am so and so, and I'm this person. My lifestyle is like this. I am active, or I am sedentary, or I am not active. So if you can understand yourself and know that I'm a very active person, I'm supposed to eat this. You might be serving yourself, you're working yourself, and eating. You might be very idle, sitting the whole day because you don't do to eat all that calories. It will become bad because you're not using it. Okay, so that's the range: 2,000 to 2,500 kilocalories for a day. And then for women, women require around 1,800 to 2,000 kilocalories in a day. Like we said, we are built differently, men and women, so we have different requirements. Women do not lift as heavy as men. Women's activity does not, okay, it's not just as for men. So we have to understand that there are differences in even the way we eat our food. So I have a very small activity here, very small, that I would like us to put into consideration maybe after this session. Okay, for you to determine, or for you to know that this is the amount of food I'm supposed to eat, or this is not the amount of food, or this is the food, I want us to do this activity, which is calculating your BMI. A BMI is a measure of fat, the fat that you have in your body is what you want to know to determine which category you fall in. Okay, you find that somebody is underweight, somebody is normal, somebody is overweight, or somebody is obese. So for you to know, or for you to understand which category you fall in, if you know which category you fall in, you will be able to understand the type of food you're supposed to eat, or the amount of food you're supposed to eat. Because you cannot be underweight and then you eat less food, or you cannot be overweight and then you eat more food. That's because that means you're just doing, even you're causing more problems to yourself. So we will have this brief calculation so that you can know which range you're in, so that you can know the type of food to eat. So for you to calculate your BMI, know whether you're obese or you're underweight or you're normal or you're whichever, we have to do this calculation. For you to know your BMI, which is a body mass index, you calculate your weight. If you want, you could write this down so that you, or you could even use your phone. There's this app on the phone that you can use to determine your BMI. You can just go to Google and type BMI calculator. It will show you, and then you put in your weight you have in your, and you put on your, for you to determine what BMI. For you to eat, for you to eat. Can you, for you to calculate your BMI, you have to know your weight and your height. So I'm sure most of you know your weights and your heights. So just put your weight. Let's say, for example, you're 50 kgs. Okay. And then let's say your height is 170. That so for you've done of 8.5, it means, okay, the range is give you between 25 to 20, means you're overweight. We have to understand the difference between overweight and obesity. When you're obese, it means you're past the normal range, which is 30 above. So sit down, get your weight, get your height, and calculate it, then see the ranges that you fall. If you fall in the normal, congratulations for the kind of would it work? I'm not sure if it's on my side. Okay. And then if that I'm not getting anything from you. Oh my God. Everyone not getting me? Here.
The line is breaking. The line is breaking. The line is breaking.
I'm not sure if they can hear me now. Can I don't know if I should. How about like this? Can you hear me? My network.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Okay. I'm not sure where I ended exactly, but I will just continue from where I stopped. You can text in the group. Okay. I really like the fact that you all contributed. So, like I said, from each other, you can text whatever you think. Somebody saying palm 50% of saturated increases the of low density lipoproteins in the body, which may also be a risk factor to cardiovascular disease. Effects on. So I was talking about knowing your BMI, knowing your range. Are you normal? Are you underweight? Are you overweight, or are you obese? So if you know your range as a human being, you'll be able to determine which kind of food can I avoid. Okay, somebody's saying I should repeat the whole BMI thing. Let me just do it once again. Bida, please, to the first other one. Yes. Bida? Okay. Yeah, let me just repeat the BMI thing. We said BMI is the measure of fat body, like the fat that your body has. And for you to determine this, you have to know your height and weight. Okay. So for you to know your height and weight, of course, you go for these measurements. Maybe you can just go to a clinic or anywhere you get your weight in centimeters. Or there are some places that measure weight in pounds and inches and height in inches. So if you also pounds or inches, you just divide by 703 to get the same answer. So the formula is this: for you to get your BMI or to know your range, you do weight, which is in kgs, divide by height, which is in meters squared. That means in centimeters. So I gave an example. For example, if you have 50 kgs and then you divide by your height, let's say you have 150 centimeters, what is the BMI of this? This should be around normal. This should be around 18.9 if you do your calculation. And this is a normal range. So it will determine, I've given you the ranges from 18.5 to 24.9, you're normal. From 25.0 to 29.9, that is overweight. And then from 30.0 above, means you're obese. And obesity is also classified as 3. So they go on as on the kinds of food that you want to eat to get your desired body. But I think you can go to the next one. Okay. Said nutrition is about quality and moderation. Whatever you eat, it has to be in moderation. Because treat your stomach like a healthy plate. Whatever you take into your stomach has to be something that you're very sure of. Because you might have a lot of food here that is not healthy. Okay? Sometimes the crisis, the financials can make us eat things that might not be very beneficial. You know how the saying goes, I'm just eating to close my eyes. Yes? The quality of the food. If you eat that food, how is it going to work on your body? Which nutrients is it going to provide for your body? Okay. That said, I'd like to talk about the effects of nutrition. Let's say the things we've said above, you've measured, you know your range, you've eaten good food, or maybe you decide to ignore and also focus on the kind of food that you're eating. These are the effects that might come up. One is stunted growth and development. This mostly happen to children. That's why you find that in most cases, children are the ones that are very malnourished. Okay, because a child is a very delicate human being. If you don't feed your child from an early age with the essential nutrients, and that's why I said earlier on that exclusive breastfeeding is very important, because when this child gets all the nutrients from the breast milk, this child is able to grow healthy. I also spoke about the cholesterol that these kids get from parents from the first 3 days of birth. If they take that cholesterol, which contains cholesterol, it will help them to build their bones, their structure, and make them stronger human beings. So, if they don't get all that nutrition that is needed for them, it's going to cause stunted growth. You find that a child does not look their age. A child is 7 years, but the child looks like she's 3 years old. Nutrition, food. Which food do you feed? Remember, our first point was you are what you eat. So if you don't give this child the good nutrients they need, it will present in their growth. So we have to be very clear on food that we feed our children. These foods from the garden, they're very healthy. It doesn't have to be supermarket, it doesn't have to be expensive. The small things market, they're very healthy. Just be selective on the people have suffered from so many cardiovascular diseases. You find somebody has diabetes, somebody has hypertension, somebody has heart disease, somebody has stroke. What is the cause of all this? Your food. Because the habit that you employ in eating is what will determine. And the funny thing is, nutrition does not quickly. When you start aging, you realize, oh, this and this has happened. Why? Because the rate of cell growth the growth of cells in your body becomes slower. You're prone to disease. You can easily get sick. So let's say you've not been working out when you were when you were younger. You've been eating very unhealthy foods, and you're obese. All these things will affect you. Whether you like it or not, it will affect you. So your food will determine the kind of life you want to live, so that when you become old, you're still strong, because the deposition of those nutrients in your bones make you strong. Let's say you eat calcium, you have stronger bones. You're old, but you're still strong. I've seen men who they do size, but they are very, very strong. So if we consume these foods that are junk, it will cause a lot of cardiovascular diseases that might cost us so much in our life. So the food choices really matters a lot in what we eat every day. And then we have weight issues. This one is a very evident thing. Like a child, let's say a child, or even a big person who just deals with junk foods, processed foods, these processed foods have a lot of chemicals. They have a lot of oil. They have a lot of sugars. They have a lot of salts. So the more you eat them, the more you gain your weight. And for class, if you do exercise, that food that you've eaten can be distributed to your body. At the end of the day, you've that you're seated and you're very inactive, and then you find yourself gaining weight. It's the same to the other one. If you don't eat completely, a child lacks vitamin. You'll find that, for example, marasmus or kwashiorkor, you've not given this child proteins. This child will start to develop kwashiorkor because there is an important macronutrient that this child is not getting. So this child gets kwashiorkor and then starts manifesting some signs and symptoms of maybe having rashes in their body, and then you're wondering what is happening to this child. It's because the child has not gotten food. Give the child food, the right food for that matter. So it will bring in weight issues and diseases. And then diabetes mellitus, we've already talked about that, the sugars that we eat, mostly the processed foods that we eat. And then we have bone health conditions. You find somebody's already at 50, not even 50, at 40, somebody's already experiencing weak bones because there's no enough deposition of this calcium in your bones. So you become very weak. You find somebody very young but cannot stand. Why? Because your body is not used to, your body is becoming weak by the day. It is not nourishing because you don't have those nutrients that your body needs to be healthy and have those strong bones and stuff. Weak immunity system. Have you ever gone to a hospital and a doctor tells you, please eat, always eat, give this child food, give this child this, eat. Why is it always eat? Because our body's immunity also is determined by the food that we eat. There are some foods that we eat and gives us immunity. For example, we've seen cancer patients who are not able to consume certain types of foods. Okay, maybe because of the processes they go through, the chemotherapies and the stuff. You find that they're not able to take in enough food. If you don't have enough food, what happens? You become very weak. Your body becomes prone to diseases. Any sickness that comes blows you away because you're very weak. We've seen children who have anemia, very weak immunity because they don't have the food that they need so that it can actually fight back. Okay, so food, right food, is very important so that you can have a strong immunity to fight diseases, to keep you healthy, and to keep you active. And then the other one is mood and mental health issues. I don't know if you can believe me in this, but I think food actually plays a very big role in determining whether our mood or our mental health is at stake. Because I have seen, thank you, Bida, for sharing. I have seen, for instance, there are some people, okay, when they're hungry, they will not talk to you because it's also psychological. There's a way your body does not coordinate because we said your body coordinates or works with sugar. Now you don't have sugar. And when we talk about sugar, we don't just mean you go to the table and take sugar and eat. The foods that we eat have sugars. So when we eat those foods and then the brain uses it to function and we become active. So if we don't have those foods, we become very dormant and very inactive. And mental health issues, for example, I said it's psychological because now expensive, you start having stress, you start having trauma, and then there are people mental health issues. And then we have skin problems. We say you should get vitamin D when you wake up in the morning, go sit at the sunshine. We said it was a fat, so you can only get the food that you eat. The body does not make it. So you have to ensure that you get it. Okay? So you do not have nutrients, let's say hydration, you don't take enough water, what happens to your skin? It becomes very dehydrated and it becomes pale. It becomes cringy. It becomes very, I don't know what to put it, but water is very important. And we said water was one of the essential element that our body needs to function very well. So we also have cancer and hormonal imbalances. Cancer is a very complicated thing, but we have to know that cancer is a result of abnormal cells. There are some foods that we eat that can actually cause us cancer. So you find that at the end of the day, your body is reacting in a certain way, or maybe your hormones are imbalanced, and then so many issues occur to your body. So I think food is a very important factor that when we eat, we should put the first definition of how it is a nutrient that our body needs to nourish, that our body needs to function. Okay, and there are so other issues. There are so many other issues that nutrition can cause if you don't take nutrition. Bida, please, the next one. Okay, I have a case study here that I would like us to discuss. Bod, I don't understand what you mean by how does low nutrition habits contribute to stroke? Okay, I have a case study here that I'd like us to and so that we can discuss. So this is a story of a young man who is called Kenyi. It's not you. So we have a guy here who is called Kenyi, and he's a male, and he lives a sedentary lifestyle. So a sedentary lifestyle is that life that you're mostly dormant almost the whole day. Like, yes, you're doing work, but it's not an active kind of work. You know, we classify people according to the kind of work they do. For example, if you see builders, they're highly active because they are up, they are building, they are lifting, they are sweating, they're highly active. And then sedentary, for example, people who work in offices, and I'm sure most of us here are people who work in offices. In the introduction, I saw people who are project managers, blah, 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 so many. And I'm assuming that you're the type of people who go 9 to 5 to work. So when you sit down in the office, let's say you just go for breaks during lunchtime, you go for 1 hour, you go for breakfast, maybe 30 minutes or 1 hour, you come back and sit, you're on your laptop, you're on your computer, you're on your phone. That is sedentary. There is an activity factor, but it is very low. Okay, so Kenyi is 28 years old, and he is a male, and he works a typical job of 9 to 5. Okay, so he goes to the office at 9 and he comes back at 5, and he sits for very long hours doing projects and writing reports. Okay, and remember, 28 years, he's just a youth. So despite the fact that he's a youth, he has developed concerning habits when it comes to his diet. He is overly obsessed with junk foods since he lives alone and prefers to buy ready foods. So we are saying Kenyi here is now, he wants to eat junk food. And junk foods are those highly processed foods, those foods that have a lot of sugars and a lot of oils. So he's now obsessed with them. Why? Because he goes to work at 9, comes back at 5. He's very tired. So what happens? Let me just go to this dukan here. Let me buy biscuits, or let me buy this, let me buy that. He comes and eats them. Or let me order chicken and pizza, and burgers, all those stuff. Why? Because, of course, the body is tired and you want something that just comes very easy and eat. Okay? And also, Kenyi does not have the skills to cook. And that's why he prefers to buy from a fast shop. So what happens to Kenyi? This obsession becomes a routine. Every time he comes from work, he buys. Every time he comes from work, he buys. And remember, in the morning, he wakes up and goes to work. Comes back, the same thing. He orders food. So the combination of the inactivity and poor dietary choices is taking a toll on his health and well-being. So I have a question. I'm sure you guys have had the case study. So I have a question that I'd like us to discuss and put our answers in the comment section. Sorry, in the chat box. So the first question is, what consequences do you think Kenyi is likely to face in his eating habits and in his lifestyle? Do you think he will face consequences? If yes, what are the consequences that you think Kenyi will have? Just post on the group, on the chat box.
Okay, yeah. Maybe just to allow you to take a little rest, I see a hand from Justin. Justin, you would like to answer the question? Okay.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Yes, I just had a question on the issue of palm oil, and just to take you back, sorry,
Mm.
on the type of fish, whether dry fish or fresh fish, fried one, which one do you recommend among these as a national? Just a few one. Then on the palm oil, I had wanted you to elaborate on the effects of palm oil and how to use it.
Okay, thank you. Can I get to you after I read the answers on the comment on the chat box about Kenyi? Thank you
Yes.
for the question. Okay, so Charles is saying he will become obese. Richard is saying obesity, cardiovascular diseases, hypertension, stroke, yes. And then Kenyi possesses high risk of non-communicable diseases such as blood pressure, stroke, diabetes, type 2, and stuff. Okay. Uh-huh. Oh, I'm not sure about the last. I think this is to you.
Are you there, Esther? KG, can you hear me? Okay, she's getting back. Yeah,
I don't know
so
if
keep your answers coming in the chat box, please.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, clearly.
Okay. Let me check the chat box. Okay. Okay. So I was saying the answers you've given are all true. Kenya is likely to face so many issues. Cardiovascular diseases. And this is now where we find the stroke, the diabetes, the hypertension, all this. Okay. Thank you, Kenyi. Kenyi himself has decided to give us answers on the second question. Thank you. Okay. So we also say there is also one fact. There is also one fact that I think Kenyi will face. Kenyi will face cost, money, because remember this condition for you to be taken care of, for you to be treated. At the end, you're not going to enjoy. You will be to the hospital, so that you can now start buying good food so that you can, okay? So the choices you make now will be the cost that you will use for yourself in the near future, whether you want to spend a lot of money buying medications or supplements to help your body function very well. And the second question was asking how can Kenyi improve on his lifestyle? And I'm happy to see Noah. Oh God, it has disappeared again. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Okay. Okay, so Kenyi is saying, Kenyi is likely to, oh, we've already done that. Kenyi should improve and change his lifestyle by eating a balanced diet, do physical exercise to lose weight and become normal. This is very correct. So, being normal to me is not something that is negotiable, because your health is in your hands to determine whether I want this lifestyle or I want this lifestyle. So if Kenyi had changed that lifestyle even before he started it, he would have not been in all that problem. So there was a point of saying no knowledge on preparation methods of foods. I understand men in my country and some other counties where men do not participate in meal preparation, in, you know, in different types of foods. So it becomes very hard. For example, if you're working and you don't have a wife, you're just alone at home, and maybe you come back very tired, you have to have at least basic skills on how to prepare foods. You have to have basic knowledge on which food is which, or which causes which disease, so that you will not have those long-term effects of wanting to buy now good foods later on, or wanting to buy medications to treat, or having to now start doing exercises so that you can have a normal body. So it can start from now. You can just decide and say, I'm not going to eat unhealthy foods, I'm going to eat the healthy ones, because I don't want to have the consequences of this and this and that. Okay, so Kenya can improve by going for exercises, and exercise does not just mean going to the gym or whatever. It's food. Instead of having to go, then change of lifestyle. Yes, the food you have and when you eat and how you eat, the moderation and the amount of food and the quality of the food. So Kenya is likely to face all those, and but it's not late. He can always improve on. You can always start from where you are. So Bida, please, the next slide. Bida, can you hear me?
Yes, the slide is already on the screen. Can't you see it? Are you able to see the next slide?
Yeah, not yet.
It is showing on the screen.
I don't think it's showing on my side. It's still showing me the case study. Okay, just give it a moment as I answer um, what somebody had asked
Can you
about
see now?
fish. So, so um, fish is fish, but now the method of preparation also matters. Okay, because you can buy fish which has all the nutrients, which is very healthy, and then you decide and go dip it in oil that is not healthy. So it's like having a clean cloth, and then you decide to put it in how you preparing it. You're going to use those fried, whether it's beef or whether it's stew, good. But cooking, make sure the ingredients that you use are not when I was out time I used or unsaturated and saturated. It was part of the saturated. Why? Because when it's at room temperature, it solidifies. Okay, and these are the kinds of oils that when you eat them, remember it's a low density lipoprotein. So at the end of the day, it will have effects on the levels of cholesterols in your body. You'll find out that the palm oil you've eaten, because of the saturation in it, becomes harmful to your body. So the amount that you should take is moderate, like I said. Yeah, but I can see it now. The amount should be moderate. I remember in the beginning I said there's no food that is bad, but moderation. How are you going to eat it? And then after eating it in moderation, how is your activity factor? So this palm oil, you can use it moderately. Let's say if you've eaten it today and you're very active, you do your exercise, it doesn't have a problem. But now the problem comes when you eat it every time, and you're just seated, you're not doing any work, you're being sedentary. That's when it can have a problem. I hope that that helps. Okay. Now we have a table here of food choices. We have the one on the the right and the one on the left. So if we see these two diagrams, we find that this other one looks really nice and has a lot of, I'm seeing a lot of snacks, a lot of sweets, a lot of chips, a lot of pizza. And this is what is dominating the world now, unfortunately, because the funny thing about nutrition or nutritious foods is that the unhealthy ones are actually sweeter. Okay. Uh, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can
So,
hear you. Yeah.
okay. So on the right, we have the junk foods where you find so many sugars in it, and they're mainly processed. The chips, the pizzas, the cakes, the popcorns. These are the foods that when you go to the supermarket, you will find them. Okay, and they are very appealing, and kids love them. Old people love them. All of us love them because they are nice. Okay, but we have to know at the back of our mind that it's not just about the appearance, but it's about what the effect it will cause to our bodies. Okay, I'm not saying we should not have them, but when you're having them, it should be in moderation. When you're having them, you have to limit the intake so that when you take today, tomorrow you're not taking, or the other day, maybe you take it once in a month, or whichever way you can be able to afford them. But just knowing that you don't have to overtake it. And then on the other side, we have, of course, our fruits, our our legumes, we have our protein, we have our carbohydrates, which is very healthy. Okay. And to even make it worse, these ones that we consider healthy are the same ones that are used to make these other ones. It's just that now, for example, pizza has tomatoes. Okay. Pizza has cheese, and you get cheese from animal. Okay. So moderation is what I will always talk about. When you're eating the type of food you want, make sure it is moderate so that it will not have effects on you. Because remember, the effects will not happen now. In the future, when you're getting older, when your body cells are dying, and you become weak and stuff. So for now, you're still strong, and you still can walk, you still have that energy to do whatever you want. But the choice that you make will determine what you will go through tomorrow. But I think we are going to the last slide, which is the second last one. Okay. You might be wondering, this lady has been talking about food. I don't even know which kind of food she's talking about. Oh, okay. Now this is what I have for you. A healthy plate. What is a healthy plate? So I was telling you about how you're supposed to eat if you really want to maintain a good health. If you really want to have nutritious food in your body. This is a typical example of a healthy plate. Okay. And a healthy plate does not just have to look typically like this. Okay. So the plate is divided into three. If you can see it very clearly from your side, it has three subsections. We have the bigger side, the one that is bigger, is composed of two things: vegetables and fruits. Okay. What does that mean? It means in every meal that you eat, you have to have vegetables, at least in it. Okay. In our families, we have different eating habits. I don't know about how you cook your food in your family, or I don't know about how you serve your food, but do you cook meat and asida, and that is all? Or do you cook asida, and then you cook meat, and then you have maybe cabbage, or you have maybe sukuma wiki, or you have maybe korofo, or you have maybe cassava leaves? Those are vegetables. So in that plate you're going to eat, at least there has to be a vegetable. Why? Because you'll find so many vitamins in that vegetable. You'll find so many fiber in that vegetable, which will help your digestion. And then in the other side, there is protein. Okay? So the food that you eat, it should have protein. Somebody had asked the examples of foods that might have the protein and stuff. So we have so many proteins. We have meat, we have fish, we have eggs, milk, beans, legumes. To mention, there are so many. You just have to choose which one you want. Okay, one group of food and eat. And then the other side, so for example, here there is fish, and fish is a protein. It could be meat, it could be eggs. So the other one is carbohydrate. And from what I'm seeing here, there is rice. But rice is not the only carbohydrate. You can eat bread, you can eat asida, you can eat cereals, you can eat tubers, nasbambe, nasbafura, yams. Those are very, very important carbohydrates. So your plate should have at least one of the food groups. If you decide to choose carbohydrate, which is a yam, you decide to choose a protein, which is meat, and then you have a vegetable, cabbage, for example. Now, fruits. Most times we say fruits are very expensive, and I'm so happy for people of Western Equatoria because I assume they have a lot of protein, they have a lot of fruits, but you can still get fruits. So at least in every meal, you should have food. You should have a fruit. I know this is not ideal, okay, because it might be very hard for some people to get. But if you can get, or if you have access to get a fruit, you don't have to go to the market and buy a fruit. You can get it from a tree, very fresh one. Wash it and eat it. So your plate should look like this. It should have a protein, a carbohydrate, and a vegetable and a fruit. And then if you see out here, you see that there's a glass of water. Earlier on, we were talking about water, and you've seen here that there's also water. So water is very important. It doesn't matter when you drink, whether it's after food or before food. It really depends on the convenience. People have different theories about when can I drink water, when can I not drink water. But the convenience, for example, personally, when I eat food, I have to drink water. That works for me. But there are some people, maybe they drink water and they eat food. If that works for them, that's okay. You just have to be comfortable. Okay? So, water, if you're drinking water, it should be at least 8 glasses in a day, if possible. But most times we don't implement about the 8 glasses of water, because which glass are you talking about? It could be a mini glass, it could be a large glass, it could be whichever glass. But if you can reach up to 2 liters of water in a day, that's okay. But also, we understand that not everyone can take 2 liters of water in a day. It could be because of the condition. Maybe you have a heart disease, or a disease that does not require you to take a lot of water. Yes. Or maybe the environment you're in. You could be in an environment that is always cold and you're not able to take water because it's, of course, cold and you don't have that thirst to drink water. Or you might be in an environment that is hot. The amount of water will also will be determined by the type of condition you're in. So let's say, for example, you're in Juba and it's always very hot. Do you just stick to 2 liters of water and you're working? I like giving examples with the builders. These guys work a lot, they sweat a lot. That means they have to take more water. You cannot compare yourself to someone who sits in an office from morning to evening, because this person can take 1 liter of water, and that's okay, because the person is not using a lot, because there is no a lot of wood, a lot of that will require so many of the energies. Okay, so please purpose to make sure that when you're eating or drinking water, ensure that at least your plate is that colored. At least it has a protein, carbohydrate, and a fruit and water. Okay, yeah. So Bida, go to the next while I answer this question. How about families who may not be able to provide these items at the same time, especially looking at the economic situation South Sudan are subjected to these days? What will be your recommendation? Very good. Okay, so this is very easy. In the beginning, I said we are talking about quality and quantity. I mean, quality and moderation. We understand that not everyone is the same, okay? There are people who can be able to afford, and there are those who cannot be able to afford meals, okay? Considering the situation South Sudan is in, you see Korofo is, I think Korofo is the cheapest thing in the market. And this brings us to the norm of healthy eating is expensive. No, it's not. Because you have to eat what is available. Okay? I cannot tell you, oh, right now you have to go and buy fruit and you don't have the money to buy fruit. I'll just be lying to myself, because you're not going to do it. So you have to go with what is available in that specific place you're in. Let's say you are in an area that has a lot of fruits. Why would you have to go and look for fruits in the market when you have fruits? Okay. What about sustainability? We are all fighting towards food insecurity. If you can have your farm, a subsistence farming, a very small farm that can help you. Because right now, if you're going to say, I'm going from the market, I'm going to buy from the market, yeah, going to be expensive because of the economic situations. So I would recommend that what you can afford within you, you can actually modify it. It can be from the way you cook it, or even the amount you eat. For example, if you buy if you decide to buy meat, okay, there are some ways that you can cook it that can improve the quality and give you more calories. Okay. So if you don't understand even the cooking methods, you can have actually all the food that you want, but because of the way you cook it, you lose everything. Let's say you have cabbage, you overcook it, you've lost the nutrients that you need. You'll be only left with the fiber. So knowledge on how you can prepare food and eating what is available will also be an aspect that can help. Yes, because we cannot say yeah, thank you. We cannot say that everyone is definitely going to get this, but if you can, make sure you do. Some people used to have a timetable for food, e.g., Monday is beans, Tuesday greens, Wednesday this, Thursday vegetables, Friday is this, Saturday is meat, and Sunday is fish. How does that make sense in balancing? Okay, this is interesting because what is a balanced diet? If you can define what a balanced diet, then I'm sure this should be able to answer your question, Oliver. So a balanced diet does not necessarily mean eating all the food groups at the same time. Okay, you can, for example, today if you decide to have a protein and a carbohydrate and a vitamin, tomorrow you can have a vegetable, a protein, and a carbohydrate. You mix up the foods so that you can have all these nutrients. Now, the problem with having a timetable is one, you will be eating a monotonous type of food. You'll be eating the same type of food over and over because you know, on Monday, I'm going to eat beans. On Tuesday, I'm going to eat greens. On Wednesday, I'm going to eat meat. Next week, the same thing. The other week, the same thing. What happens? You don't get variety. You don't get different food values. If you stick to greens, let's say on Wednesday, you're eating greens, and it is these greens that you're going to eat next week is going to be these same greens, it means you're only eating what type of what of a nutrient. And there are so many foods that you can get variety of nutrients. So you don't I really don't encourage this because it is like you're eating the same thing over and over and over and over, so it becomes very monotonous. So if you decide to eat fish today, maybe next Monday you can decide to eat meat. Yes, that is protein, but it doesn't have to be the same thing over and over. You have to be flexible with what you're eating. So personally, I don't encourage the idea of a timetable, much as it also helps for you to maybe budget or plan. But in the budgeting, you could have maybe a weekly timetable. If you say this week I'm going to eat Monday meat, Tuesday greens, Wednesday this, Thursday this, next week you make another timetable. You make Monday, I'm eating this, Tuesday, this, another group of food. That way, you can be able to accumulate all the types of foods in your body. Yes. Yeah, I think for today, this is the last slide that we have for food, for nutrition. Tomorrow, we will take off on fitness. So if you still have any questions, I don't know, Bida, if we still have time, but you could still write your questions and then we can tackle them.
We are past time, but of course, if they have questions, they can raise their hands or type their questions in the chat box. So kindly, if you have any burning question, you can raise your hand or you can put your question in the chat box so that we are able to summarize in 5 minutes. Otherwise, I would like to sincerely thank you so much, G, for the elaborate presentation. It's been very in-depth, and I have also had the opportunity to learn a lot of new concepts about nutrition, and I also look forward to learning about fitness in tomorrow's session. And I would like to thank also each and every attendee who has been able to make time to attend this session. I hope that you have also picked a couple of learning points which you will use to enhance your nutritional practices as well as for those around you. Thank you so much. Yes, Justin, I see your hand is up. Do you have a question?
Yes, just a quick one, not necessarily a question, but I will say thank you so much for the presentation. And on the issue of the timetable, sometime cooking meat in a different styles would also help. For example, that's what I was also seeing. Maybe the type of greens, vegetables that we may need sometimes could also help. It may not necessarily be like if it's on Wednesday that we have vegetables, it will be the same type. Maybe changing these vegetables types could also be of help that's what my only view. But of course, it will also be maybe she will also need to help us understand that. Then on one question, can this presentation be shared in other resources maybe later on? That was the last thing. Otherwise, I thank you for the session and thank you for guiding us.
What's your name again? Okay.
Read by Justin.
Okay, Justin. The
Yes.
question on the timetable. Let me just remember I told you personally I don't agree to the idea of today if I eat this, tomorrow I next week Monday I eat the same thing. But what you said is totally correct. For example, if today Monday from the table that you gave me it was showing a specific type of food. You were very specific on Monday, Tuesday vegetables, Wednesday this. But let's say this way: if this week we have on Monday we have meat, on Tuesday we have vegetables, you are totally free to change them because vegetables are so many. So if you're telling me that on Monday you're eating a carbohydrate, you decide to choose which group of carbohydrate you're eating, that's totally okay. If you say on Tuesday I'm eating a vegetable, let's say today you've cooked cassava leaves, the other week you can decide to cook, let's say korofo, nyete, or the other day you can decide to cook dodo. That is totally fine. As long as you're changing the classes of food, the different types of vegetables, that's okay. But what I don't encourage is if today you eat beans and then tomorrow you eat cassava leaves, next Monday you eat beans and cassava leaves. Just like the way boarding schools do. You know, on Monday you're eating beans, tomorrow you're eating meat, the other day you're eating this. The next week is the same thing, the next week is the same thing, the next week is the same thing. It becomes very monotonous. Yeah. Yes, you still want to say something? Your hand is up.
No, I think it is over. Thank you.
Okay. If those are the only questions, and you still have other burning questions, you can. If you still go home and you still feel like something is not, you still want to get a clarification, we still have tomorrow. We'll be able to answer whichever questions you might have. Otherwise, I'm really deeply thankful for this opportunity to be able to share with you what I have, and I'm happy that I've been able to learn some things from you too. Let's meet tomorrow. Vida, over to you.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. Have the very best of your afternoon, and let's meet tomorrow.